What's up? What's up? What's up? All right. So somebody wanted me to speak on this, so I'll just speak on it. Mixed children. They want to know: is it okay to have mixed babies? I I guess they want to know my opinion on mixed children, and I don't know. I don't know what angle they wanted me to speak on exactly, but mixed children, is it wrong? Is it right? I guess the main concern is I think the person that asked me was an African American. So we all know that African Americans have some type of, I guess there's a stigma and or taboo when it comes to mixing with certain races. Should we or should we not do it because there's a biblical, you know, presence that we all have. And what does God think of it? And of course, there is a culture, issue. Are we losing, our culture if we mix with certain races? And the answer is absolutely. But then there's what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So when we look at African American people, we got what, 40 million in the US? They're not all dark skinned people. We have to look at the people who were brought over here. They were 100% Africans. And then you have to look at the natives that were already here. They were 100% whatever they were. Now, a lot of them were dark skinned. If you look at the Indians, they were dark skinned people. If you look at the Aborigines, they were dark skinned people. So they wouldn't be considered Africans. They would just consider Black people or, people with a deep hue or, somewhere on that line. But we weren't all the same race. Listen, the Jews and the Egyptians were not the same race. So the Jews that came out of Mesopotamia and the Egyptians that lived in Africa are not the same race. When you look at the Asians, the Asians have found out that their skin color comes from, the continent of Africa. They were dark-skinned African people, and now they're trying to separate themselves and say, hey, we're not Africans. We didn't come from Africa. Well, China isn't Africa. It's in the continent of Africa. So yes, you are, but they don't like African people. They don't like dark-skinned people. So they go, hey, we're not you. When you look at the Germans, early day Germans, you find out a lot of them were dark-skinned people. When you look at the emperor of a lot of famous emperors, especially Roman emperors, they had an African Roman emperor. You look at some of the well-noted people that were in Asia that became swordsmen and, all this other kind of stuff. They were, African. They were Africans. Not all of them, but, you can find traces of African people all over the continent. That's basically what I'm saying. So is it okay for certain races to mix? Now, there's always going to be a stigma because there's a hatred between people. There just is. There's just a long-standing hatred between certain races. Black and white people, there's always going to be a stigma between us. It is what it is. Me personally, I don't go around hating anybody. I just don't do it. I can dislike something about a group of people, but I don't have the energy to just say, I just don't like you because I just don't. For one, that would mess my money up because I sell to anybody who wants to buy, an appliance from you. So I've been to people's houses where their children have said, "Hey, we don't like you because you're black." I've been to a house where the little girl was like, "No, my dad said your skin color is bad." I'm like, "Wait, what?" You know, and when the little girl told me this, I knew. I was like, "Okay, you got that from your parents." So the parents are teaching these children to hate black people, but unless you still bought a refrigerator from me. But when the mother asked me to do something extra, I immediately said no because I know what you think of me. You guys don't like me. You don't like my skin color. So I was trying to get the hell out of here, and that's what I did. They bought something from me. It worked. Boom. I got out of there. I didn't want to do anything extra for them because their daughter pretty much said, "Hey, their daughter and their son." And this is like a 5, 6 year old little girl. It's like, "Hey, you're bad because you're black." I was like, "Who taught you that?" And it's like, "My dad." That was it for me. I have nothing else. Now, when it comes to certain races, we know that they have issues with us. We're finding out, especially where I live, that there is a culture class between us and a lot of people. The white people definitely always has been. There's a large Hispanic group here. I don't know the answer either. But I'm just going through some history and there's a large Hispanic group here, and there are certain ones that are in that group that don't want to mix with any black people. So we have that here, that there's a Hispanic store and there's a whole area. The whole area is Hispanic. They're buying up everything. That's fine. So I thought it was cool to go into one of their stores. And the teller pretty much let me know. She was like, "We do not want black people in our store." Now, can they stop you from going in that store? No, they can't. But they can make you feel very uncomfortable. So, they made me feel uncomfortable. I never went back. I said, "Okay, fine. I'm not coming to your store. You don't want my money. That's fine." I went to a barber down there, and I noticed that the guys were like giving me attitude. I never went back. You ain't gotta ask me twice. I'm not gonna fight to be. No, I'm gone. I went and found a black barber. That's it. Now, in this area, we don't have any black stores. Like, we don't have the mom and pop stores we used to have, black stores. We don't have them. So I can't walk into a black grocery store. But you can walk into a Hispanic grocery store. You can walk into a grocery store. And when I say Hispanic, I mean everything in there is labeled for them. Everything. It's not, you can't say, "Oh, just because the Hispanics own it doesn't mean that it's Hispanic." No, it's labeled for them. It's food that they eat. They make it so it's for them. It's not illegal to do it. I don't really care about that. But I was like, "Well, shoot, it's a grocery store, so let me go in it." I found out very quickly they did not want me in there. I peaced out. I made a video about that too. But nonetheless, on a biblical platform, can black people mix with Hispanic people? And does God say, "Hey, that's okay"? Well, Hispanic people are part of the 12 tribes. So the answer would be yes, absolutely. So you have black people who've been mixing with Hispanic people for a long time. But the thing about Hispanic people is the Hispanic people, they didn't get like the beginning of their culture doesn't come from Spain. Spain is European. The Hispanic people are Indians. That's who they are. They're not European Indians. They're Indians. They're what I'm saying. Mexico and and all those countries in what is it, South America. Uh, uh, I could have that wrong. I'm not great on my continents, but nonetheless, that whole continent was taken over by the Europeans. Spain was part of Africa before it was called Spain. Okay, fine. During the Spanish Inquisition, during the time when Spain was a superpower, what color were those people? Because we can look. The Earth was a Pangea. Okay, we can go way back and say, hey, it was a Pangea, which means it was all one solid mass at one time. But let's just be real. When Spain was in its superpower, this is what I'm talking about. When Spain was so powerful at one time, they were going to take over all of Europe. Let's get this right. This where Spanish Armada comes from. They had enough ships, they had enough people, they had enough conquistadors where they actually sailed over here or sailed to Europe, and they were pretty much going to take the queen off of her seat, and they were going to sit a Spanish king, into that seat, and they tried it. And the reason why it didn't work is because they weren't used to the choppy waters over there. So when they sailed into those waters, a lot of their ships sank. That's what happened. So let's be real. When they were a superpower, they were conquering everything. And when they came over and conquered the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, when they took over all of that, they were a superpower. They took over all of that. They did it by a couple things: by warring with them, two, by lying to them. They actually used the Bible. They lied to them to get them to, put down their arms. They tricked them, and those people at that time thought the white man was Tiamat. Tiamat was a god of, the Aztecs and the Incas, and it was a white person. So when they saw the Spanish conquistadors, they thought they were Tiamat coming back to raise them to a superpower. And that's when like 87 million of them got wiped out. Wiped out, all for gold. So that's what I'm talking about. When they all got wiped out, the Spanish didn't kill all the women. They don't do that. They divide and conquer. And how do you make your continent or your country great is you spread your seed. That's dividing and conquer. You take the majority of the women that you can and that are amiable, that are, they're not going to fight. They're not going to put up a fight. They know it's all lost. And you incorporate them into your empire by what? Putting a seed into them. And eventually, after you beat it out of them and, pretty much decimate the men for the most part, you start a whole new line of people. So the Hispanic people that we see now are a whole different line of people than what was there 200 years ago. 200, 300 years ago. They didn't look like that. They look like me. They were very, very dark-skinned people. If you don't believe that, just go and check your history. Yeah, they were very, very dark-skinned people. So now the Hispanic people believe that they're white people because of the conquistadors that came in and pretty much almost wiped them out of existence and put their seed into them, and now they're light-skinned. Yeah, just look at the Mayans. None of those people are dark-skinned. And the real issue with that is they don't ever believe that they were a part of like us, like African people, African American people. They're like, no, we were never. It's just like, we know your history. So they'll hold up signs and saying, hey, Hispanic people are white. And what's really funny is when you go and check a census, the census will say there are 200, and at this time, there's 236 million white people. But what they'll also include in that, they'll say, they'll also include the white people that speak Spanish. It's very interesting. They include them in there. They're like, these people are white, but they speak Spanish. Meaning somewhere in the family, there is someone who is of Spanish descent. And then that goes whatever way it's going to go. But it all still lands back in Spain's lap after They separated themselves. Okay, because when you look at Europe itself, when you take Germany, Germany was conquered by Africans before it was conquered by white people. It was an African continent before it was taken over by white people. I mean, if you go back far enough, you'll find that out. You'll find that out that the Africans were seafaring people. This is where you get, Othello and all that. They were seafaring. They used all kind of sundials and whatnot to navigate. They were doing this before Eric the Red, and then all the European conquerors and travelers and whatnot. When you look at all of these European travelers that walked across America, they had black people with them because they taught them how to navigate by the sun. So there's that. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't have a beef with Spanish people. I got a beef with somebody who got beef with me. So let me point that out. So there's that. Now, when it comes to the Asian people, like I said, they like to, hey, we're not black. It's like, okay, you're right there in Africa, but you're not black. All right, whatever. When you look at people who are Middle Eastern, they're like, hey, we're not black. It's like, okay, you're Middle Eastern. Usually that's in a continent of Africa somewhere, when you look at the Jewish people, you have a couple people that are calling themselves Jewish, or let's just take Jews. So you have three different people that are calling themselves Jews. You have the white people who are calling themselves Jews, even though they have absolutely no ties to Jerusalem in its beginning, in its inception. Here's the thing. You're not a white person to be found when it comes to Jerusalem in its inception. Not one. You didn't help build it. You didn't do not one thing that has to do. You weren't even close to being there until it was invaded by the Romans. That's when white people were introduced into Jerusalem. And that's when like 1.5 of them fled out of Jerusalem. African Americans or Jews, black Jews, fled from there because the Romans were eating them. So let's just get that straight. So the Jewish people now who are like, yeah, we're Jewish. It's just like, you weren't Jewish, you were Russian Ascasians. That's who you were. You were a race, you were a warring race that loves war. And you were Ascasians, and you looked at the two religions that were at their height. One was Christianity, and the other one was, Islam. And, you kind of made your choice from there, but these people love to war. So they had nothing to do with Jerusalem whatsoever, but it's funny how America sends billions of dollars to Jerusalem right now to help defend Jerusalem from whatever. But the people who are over there now have a beef with the white people who are actually in control of war. And these people came out of Kedar and they're like, we're the true Jews. We're the Jews. The darker hue, we're the Jews. So now when you see them in New York, you see the Jews with the long, with the black on and all this, that the police did not make wear masks, and they were roaming the streets like anything, but they made all of us wear masks. You saw all of those who were in control of all the property and the banks. Those Jews, you see those Jews, you usually don't see them walking around with a Middle Eastern Jew. You don't usually see it because they have beef with each other. And they both want to say, hey, we're Jews. The Torah and all this other stuff on it, we're Jews. It's just like you weren't even close to Jerusalem whenever anything popped off until war popped off. And then you have countries that are asking the white Jewish people, it was like, how did you become a Jew? Like, when did this happen? Like, you guys are not Jews. Now, when you read some of their text. For one, the Quran was made 500 years after the Bible. For two, they believe in what's called a caliphate, and a caliphate is someone who is pretty much in control of their holiness. They do not believe that Jesus the Christ was a sacrificial lamb. They believe he was a holy person, but they do not believe he died for our sins. And they actually believe that there was another person up there on the cross, and it was not Jesus the Christ. This is the biggest difference between the Christians and the Jews. They also read what is called they have the Talmud, and they have just a whole encyclopedia. The Talmud is like an encyclopedia of arguments. It's all religious arguments that pretty much go nowhere, but they pretty much try to fabricate the life and death of Jesus Christ and try to argue it down. It never happened. It wasn't important. This, that, and the third. And Jesus was just a prophet that died, and he never rose on the third day for our sins. He was not the Christ. This is the biggest argument between Christians and Jews. But then you have, like I said, the Jews that come out of Kedar, and those are the ones who occupy Jerusalem at this point. And of course, they have that war going on. But those are not Jews either. Those are not Jews. And there's a few ways you can tell how they're not Jews. One, if you look at biblical history, you know that they're not Jews. And for two, the Bible says that when the Jews come back to Jerusalem, then Jesus will come back. Well, that already happened. They occupy that area, and Jesus is not here. So you have that whole argument going on. So you have the Jews and the Jewish. The Jewish are the white people. The Jews are, the Middle Eastern and the black people. The black people that are here, as people look like me, that came off of the Ivory Coast, that were actually sold by the Africans and the Jews are not the same people. They look alike. This is why Jesus was able to hide, around them, because he looked like them, but they're not the same people. The Egyptians were Africans. They enslaved the Jews. Okay, they enslaved them because the promise that was made to Abraham about how his seed would spread. And that's the biggest issue when it comes to black people. We are able to have children in large numbers. It doesn't take too many mothers and fathers to get together in order for us to have these huge families, and in order for us to nick cannon all over the place. Black people can do that with ease. We don't have to think about it. We don't need a bunch of medical this, that, and the other. It's nothing for us to settle in the area, and within 10 years, you're going to have, if you start off with 2 people, it's going to be, I don't know, it'll be 12, and then boom, and then boom, and then boom. And that number, this was the promise that was made to us, or made to the Jews. So you have all through history, European history, that they have been trying to quell those numbers. And, they have succeeded somewhat, but now it's just going to get worse for them. Now, the thing about it is when it comes to the Jews, there are 12 tribes of Jews. It's not just, dark-skinned black people. There were Issachar, which are, the Hispanic people, but they're not Hispanic people. The Issachar, we call them Hispanic people because they've been, indoctrinated into the Hispanic people by force, but that's not what they were. But they are part of the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes were all over the continents. There were a lot of places. And this is why there, are quickly when it comes to, here being in America. One year there's 40 million, the next year there's 60 million. So they are going to, as a matter of fact, by 2030, there are going to be more than here in America than there will be white people. White people between 2019 and 2020 have lost over 6 million people in 1 year. So drink that in. Nonetheless, back to the question. Can we mix? Can we mix? When I say we, Black people, Jews, can the Jews mix with other races? According to God, some of them, no. He doesn't want you mixing with them because they've separated themselves from, God's beliefs. They worship idols. This is, even when you look in the Bible, you'll see where God was talking to, the kings he put in place, David, Saul. He would tell them, he said, hey, go in and slaughter all these people. Don't leave anybody left. This is what he told to Saul. He's like, go in and slaughter all these people, slaughter them all. Babies, everyone. Do not leave any of them alive. And people are like, God wouldn't do that. It's just like, you don't know who God is. The Bible says God kills, And so when everybody say, hey, we're all God's people, it's just that's nowhere near the truth. This is not even close to being the truth. Or God wouldn't have told him to go in and slaughter all those people. And the reason why Saul got in trouble is because he did not do it. When God says slaughter them all, he wanted to slaughter everything that moved. And that isn't what happened. And then, of course, Saul went and talked to the witch, and the witch, gave him the bad news. And then he went and the witch conjured up the prophet. The prophet said, you and your sons will be dead, will be with me by tomorrow or whatever. Next thing you know, they all died in battle because God said, kill all those people, and he didn't do it. God also sent 2 bears to kill 40 children. And those 40 children were eaten by bears. It's also in scripture. Okay, so the scripture says God kills, he kills. So there are certain races that God doesn't want you to mix with. God said today, sounds like that God is the evil one. God is a king. You name me one king in history that didn't order an eradication of someone at some point in time. Show me one good king. Just show me one good king, and I'll show you that he slaughtered a group of people. Show me one. Tell me one. You can go all the way back to Egypt. You can go to your European kings. You can go to your Vikings. We can go to, you can go to Mao Zedong. We can go to your rulers in Russia. We can go to Queen Elizabeth. She was ordering the heads cut off of people. That's how the English got here, because they were fleeing from the queen because she was cutting people's heads off. I mean, you show me one good king and I'll show you a murderer. Just go ahead, mention one. Mention one famous king and I'll prove to you that Leopold killed 15 million African people. Yeah, Nigerians. He killed 15 million of them. The Dutch. Just show me one. What, the French? Or what they were? They weren't murderers? The French were killing their own people and swimming in food that they could have gave to the people until the revolution happened. They did it on purpose. Tell me one. Tell me one good king. One king that wasn't the Chinese, show me one. The Japanese, please. God is a king. He does what kings do. If you don't listen to what he says, you're going to pay the penance. That's it, and that's all. Even one good queen. Show me one good queen, and I'll show you a queen that has ordered the eradication of a group of people at one point in time. Even your presidents. Name one good president. And we can dig up history and show you at one point in time somebody did something somewhere. What, President Obama? What? How many millions of people did he kill? Yeah. He would order, he made orders to kill one person, knowing that there were 30 other people, mostly women and children, around him that would all die too if that bomb hit him. And he ordered to strike. Yeah, I mean, what? Who? They destabilized the Middle East on purpose. Show me one good king. There is not one good king in history that did not order the strike of a group of people. And men, women, and children were all caught up in it. King David, him too. Hell, he killed Bathsheba's husband on purpose. Sent him right to the front lines where he knew he'd be killed. Slaughtered him, boom. Then took Bathsheba. Yeah, you name your king, and we can go through it like the Game of Thrones, and I'll show you every single thing that they did because it's written down somewhere. That's on you. Nonetheless, God is a king. That's the point. So I'm saying all this to say it's not that easy to say who you can mix with and who you can't mix with. It's just not that easy. Should we date white people and mix with white people and have children? I would say no. I would say that that is not exactly a good idea. However, being that this country is 236 million white people, and there's what, some 40 million of us, there's some 60 million Hispanic people. It's just a matter, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when we're going to mix, because the majority of white people are poor. The majority of white people aren't middle America. They're poor. It's like the majority of black people are poor. So when you have poor people living in the same area, boom, things happen. The Hispanics that live, majority are poor. Boom. So there's mixing going on. But from a biblical sense, I would say mix with Hispanic people and don't mix with white people. Is God accepting of it? I would say that's between you and God, but there are biblical references to dig up and, to start looking through and give some serious thought. And the more you look in the Bible, the more you're going to say, I don't want to have children with a white woman. You're just not going to want to do it. Also, you're going to not gravitate towards anyone who's Asian. But like we said, there's Asian African people, because you can marry somebody who's African, but they have some type of, Asian lineage in them. Yeah, if you ever seen an Asian black woman, she's gorgeous. You know what I mean? But so there's that. But when it's something that you need to pray upon. You need to, Lord, should I do this? Because, hey, I like her, she likes me, we look good, we're both successful, or we're both broke as hell. We'd do better if we, got on this, ship together and combined our resources. It's kind of almost situational, but biblically, there are a lot of races that you should stay away from. Okay, so let's look at Germans. Germans like black people. They do, when it comes to German women, not the men. Now, there are a lot of war babies that are running around in Germany, and they're mixed. They're mixed with black and, black and white. And we're talking pure Germans, okay? So you'll find a lot of them, you'll find a lot of war, I've even met a couple. You'll find a lot of war babies. And this started when Hitler indoctrinated some of the Senegalese into his army. However, Hitler did not like the Senegalese men. And the reason why he didn't like the Senegalese men is because the women liked the black men. Now, they liked them for their height. They liked them because they were well endowed. They liked their physical prowess. Uh, uh, Germans are known to be, very strong, physically strong people, but they weren't known to be the fastest people on earth. You know, there's one research that was done on black and white soldiers when it comes to their eyesight. They found out that that black people had better eyesight when it comes to firing a rifle. You can look that study up because somebody's going to go, that's never true. And go, look it up, you'll find it. So there are just some things that I'm sure not every woman was like, how's your eyesight? But there are just some attributes that a race of people will have and another race will not have. Nonetheless, the Senegalese were very tall people. Germans are actually a decent height too. They have a good average height, but Senegalese were actually taller. If you ever seen a Senegalese, mostly Senegalese men, they're over 6 foot tall. And of course, all that other stuff that goes with that. So once those men start pouring into Europe because they were helping out with war, they started mating with the European women, the German women, and the German women start having their children. And Hitler did not exactly like that, so he had some serious beef with them. He would lock some of them up, but nonetheless, Hitler would incorporate the Senegalese into his army. So there's that. Now, before the European uh, had taken over Germany, Germany was ran by African people. It was ran by African people before the Europeans multiplied there and start wiping them out and start moving them out. Now, some of the people that are in your history books you think are white, they are not white. They were not white people. Some of the people, like who's that woman in France that they killed? What's her name? The woman who said she was sent by God, the teenager. And whenever you see her in a movie, she's always this white, blonde head or freckle face, redhead. What's her name again? They burned her at the stake. One of you guys are gonna know her name. Sometimes I have brain lock trying to remember all this information. But when you look at the history books and you start looking at what color she was, you'll find out that she had dark skin. She was what they called swarthy. That's how they defined her in her history books. I'm gonna have to look her name up. But yeah, she was swarthy. Let me see if I can find the definition of her. The way they define her, the one that put her cannons on the hill and fired down the cannons, and that's how she saved France. Dang it, I can't believe I don't know her name. One of y'all help me out. I'm having a brain lock here. Gonna mess with me too. Joan of Arc. Yeah, Joan of Arc. She was the guidance of the French army. And look, they even show her in here as a white woman. Yeah, when she defeated the English. So let me see how they define Joan of Arc. because I'm telling you, Joan of Arc was a dark skinned woman. It says non contemporary and near contemporary depictions show her as having a dark complexion. She's a dark skinned woman, and she wasn't a very good looking woman. I said she wasn't very attractive, but she was a dark skinned woman. That's the woman that set her cannons up on a hill to save France from the English, who always, had issues. They always fought against each other, very bloody wars that they fought against each other. And earlier, when I was talking about the Spanish and how their boats sank, is because the Spanish were trying to cross the English Channel. The English Channel is a very uh, tumultuous body of water. And if you go to the bottom of the English Channel, you're going to find a lot of, ships that were from 14th, 15th centuries because they tried to conquer them through the English Channel and then bang. They weren't ready for the choppy waters and it tore the ships apart. And that's what happened to the Spanish Armada. Okay, so there's that. But so, yeah, there are some races that God would say, yes, you can mix with, and there are some races that God would say, no. As far as white is concerned, I don't think God would want you mixing with them. But nonetheless, when you live in close quarters, it's just something that will happen. And because there's so many of them, there's so many to choose from. There are so many white women that will never have a husband. And now it's so bad that a lot of them don't have boyfriends. Uh, the European woman is in such danger uh, because they're just, especially when they want to say, I just want a European man. When they make that choice, they cut themselves off of millions of potential suitors. And a lot of them are realizing this. So they've said, you know what? Maybe I can deal with an Asian. Maybe I can deal with a black man, or, this, that, the third. So you do have a lot of marriages of white women reaching out to, other nationalities. But it doesn't keep white life pure. White life is a big thing. Like that woman said, when she was thanking Donald Trump, she said, "Thank you for white life." White life is a huge, 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 huge thing because they're worried that their seed is not going to be around in the next, I don't know, 100 years or so, because there's so many of them that are dying off. The baby boomers are, they're leaving. That's it, and and they're still constantly at war. And when you lose 6 million people in one continent in 1 year, it's alarming. And of course, that's where Roe v. Wade it has come into play. Roe v. Wade has nothing to do with any other race. It's 100% for white life. That's it, and that's all. And that's it. And the white woman is going to get penalized the most. Now, are they going to stop abortions? Absolutely not. There are too many wealthy teenagers who are going to get pregnant, and then they're going to go right. They're not even going to go nowhere near an abortion clinic. There are, even the middle America, they're going to find a black market to go to and take care of those children and be fine. But the poor white woman, that's who they're targeting because there are more poor white people in America than there are any other people. That's who they're going after. You're going to go after them. They're going to penalize them. They're going to scare them. They're going to put them in jail. They're going to charge them $10,000. And the thing about it is, they're not coming at them as in saying, hey, you murdered a child. It's not what they're doing. It's you're killing our seed. The more of our seed that you take off of this planet and that you erase, the more we dive into the negative. Now, there's something to understand of when it comes to numbers, and especially when it comes to birth rate. You have, of course, when it comes to birth rate, how many children are being born. When you take, that number and go, how many? Okay, take Ohio. You take Columbus, Ohio. There are 11 million white women in Ohio, 18 and up. This is voter age. It's all across Ohio. There are 11 million. This is 18. This is people who can vote and up. We're not including those who could actually have a child. Because if you did that, you would have to say, okay, let's do it biblically and go 12 and over. 12 years old, you can have a child. Can it happen? Yeah. Does it happen? Absolutely. The chances of it happening are a lot less because of laws and, so on and so forth. But let's take it to where the law allows us and go 18 and up. Even though we know high schoolers have they're active, they're having children because they're always together. High school boy and girl, they see each other all the time. Boom, teenage pregnancy is a real problem. But if you just want to keep it safe, let's go 18 and up. That's 11 million. It's 11 million people. Now, when you take those that can't have children, when you take the maturation of a female body, when it's most likely that they're going to have a child, you're going to knock off over half of those people. Why? Because it's most likely they're not going to have a child after 40. Does it happen? Absolutely. People can have children into their 50s. But the likelihood, it's almost an outlier at this time. Statistically, it's an outlier. So you go, let's just stop at 40. Let's go 18 to 40. Then you go, let's look at the women who will possibly have a suitor. Now you can take the married and the unmarried. So when you take the married, you go, how old were they when they get married? How old is someone likely? Remember, this is all statistical, so it's guesswork at best. And then you go, you know what? I want to know how many white couples were married and in the last 10 years, and what age did they get married? Usually marriage is somewhere in between, let's go, on average, between 25 and 35. Marriage, right? So you go, okay, 25 and 35, boom. Marriage, babies born in that time, more likely, right? Now you just knocked off another huge number. This just statistically, another huge number of white women having children. And then you say, how many children will an average white family have? Woman that is married, good chance. How many children can the husband afford? Even if they're both working, you start taking guesses and you take an average, and you're going to look at an average of 2. You'll have some that has 5, but that number gets very low when it goes 5 and over. But the average is around 2, 2.5. That's the average. Now, let's say you have that number, and that number is, let's see, you started off with 11 million. That number is somewhere down to maybe 4 million. because it got cut down real quick, especially when it comes to marriage. Marriage. This is something that isn't happening as much anymore. One, because when the newer women, especially, they don't want to get married. Two, women are leaving their husbands. They're unsatisfied for some reason or another. They're jacking. So the divorce rate is sky high, 50, 60%. This is among European women. We ain't going to talk about black women because it's even higher. We're just talking about European women. So, boom, there's that. But the thing about it is they usually have kids before they get divorced. So, but you still have to consider divorce. We're just talking about in the dynamics of marriage. You see how that number gets cut down, 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 and down. And then you have, okay, how many children can Ohio, how many white babies can Ohio have? Just in my city, just this one city. It's not all of Ohio. This is just one city. How many children can Columbus, Ohio have? White children. Before the number dips into the negative. And that's the real question. Somebody did a statistic on it and said, statistically, all of America, white America, that are able to have children, that number has dipped into -2. This means they took a yearly census and said how many babies are registered, because that's a thing too. How many children are registered, and in that registry, how many children have been born each year, and when did it hit its maturation, and where is it now? And when they take that number and they look and they go boom, 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 in the state of Ohio, we had boom, 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 boom. We had 3 million children born within the last 5 years. And I'm just guessing. For the last 5 years. The 5 years before that, we had 6 million. 5 years before that, we had 10 million. The next 5 years, we're going to have 2 million in the state of Ohio. Oh, in the state of Ohio, in one city alone, in Columbus, Ohio. The year after that, you're going to have maybe 1.5 million if things keep going the way it's going. 1.5 million. The year after that, 800,000. See, the thing about it is it gets to a point where you have diminishing returns. Because of one, how long it takes a woman to have children. They just can't spit them out. Two, how long it takes a particular woman to have children. If you're only having 2.5 children, a family, and you're only having maybe 30% of those women actually producing children, you're in trouble. This is where your -2 showed up. Now, when you look at it on the men's side, how many men want to get married? The Me Too movement kicked off. 1 million men poured out of the workplace. Men do not get married if they can't afford it. Because what do men have to get married? A stable job. They have to have a stable job, or they won't do it. It's just not right to them. Me Too kicked off, 1 million men, boom, out of work immediately. I'm gone. That number went up after that. And during the Me Too movement, you had people like CEOs like Yahoo who would only hire women. Of course, they took her to federal court and won because she was discriminating against men. You think she was alone? No. If a man cannot work He will not marry. He'll sleep with you. You'll have some illegitimate kids, but he won't marry because he can't afford it. He knows you're going to be in his ear. So you had that kicked off, right? COVID-19 kicked off in 2020. How many white men did COVID-19 kill? After COVID-19 kicked off, then you had the opioids. How many white men did opioids kill? Problem after problem after problem wiped out white America. And it's doing it right now as we speak. 6 million white people gone in 1 year. Gone. They have a problem. And the white woman, the spinsters who are out there preaching feminism, are ruining the chances for the younger white female to have children. But now, generation whatever acronym, they're like, I'm not working for anyone. I'm not settling down with any man because these men are crazy. They're not going to settle down with us. They're just smashing us and moving on. So I'm not having any children. This generation doesn't want to have any children. You understand the collapse that's about to happen. If a whole generation that's in high school across the nation has made a ubiquitous decision, we're not doing this. And the spinsters are preaching against men. Men are no good. We can do what you can do and do it better. We're smarter than you. We're faster than you. If you say anything against us, we're going to go ahead and have you canceled. They even threatened Obama and said if Obama doesn't put Hillary Clinton in office, he's going to have a problem. When he won his first election, they threatened him. Then Hillary Clinton was what? Secretary of Defense. They threatened him because they figured Obama got in there because of us, the white woman. Why? Because there are more white women walking the planet than there are, well, there are more white women walking around in America than anyone else. So they figured the one who swayed the votes. Not true. You swayed the popular vote. You did not sway the Electoral College. Electoral College is a set group of a small set group of people that says who's going to be president, who's not. The popular vote does not matter. So you understand the collapse that is happening to white people right now as we're speaking. It's imploding in on them. Right now as we're speaking, our numbers are getting lower and lower every day. Every day. Every junkie you see walking around high off of opioids, white collapse. Go look at the college. Look at the numbers in college. Look at the Ivy League numbers in the colleges. You can just do a quick study, boom, boom, boom. See how many white people enrolled in college this year. In Ivy League, Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Brown. Big schools. Look at the numbers. They're in trouble. So can you mate with them? Here's the thing. The less rich people, the more poor people. So it's just a matter of time before there's going to be more black and white babies running around. There just is. It's just the truth. With the price of inflation going up, it's hitting everyone. And I told you guys, I just went to guy's house who was middle America. His wife lost her job. He's got two teenage sons. They both have to work. One's 15, one's 18. He told he told the 18-year-old, you got to work. And the 15-year-old said, I want a job too. He said, we had to move out of a big old house and move into this apartment. And I've talked to plenty of these people who've done the same thing. White America's in trouble. But should you mate with them? That's kind of up to you. Me, I don't think that you should. I just don't. There are some damn good looking white women out there, but I don't think that you should. I don't, yeah. I think biblically you shouldn't. I don't know all the scriptures, but I don't preach against it. I just don't advocate for it. Hispanic people, that's different. People from Brazil, those are African people. That's different. Asian people, I don't think you should. However, Asian people, when it comes to, you're finding Black men have made a major exodus to Brazil, to Thailand, to a bunch of these other islands, and they're being accepted. They're being accepted with open arms and open legs. And these women are like, get down here and marry us, put a baby in us, take care of us. And they're like, we don't even want to go back to America. We just want you to come here and marry us up. This is what we want. We want the Black man. So you have a nation that is rejecting Black men. And you got nations that are saying, we'll take him. You don't want him? You think he's ugly? You think he's too short? You think he doesn't have enough money? You don't like his big nose? Over here. Bring him over here. We'll take him. As soon as you step foot in Brazil. Hell, in Germany is the same thing. And I know because I lived over there. That's exactly what happened. I know people who go to these countries, who live in these countries, who go in and out of these countries, go down to Medellin, a very dangerous place. Women all over Black men. And I'm talking about some dangerous places. You mind your business, those Medellin women are all over you. They're like, yeah, marry us. Because they're looking at it as, we know if you have any money, if you're doing any work at all, it's going to help us. You don't have to be rich. You come down here, just do something. They're not asking for a bunch of bums. They're asking for men who have been on their purpose and just do something. What do? You fix cars? Come down here and fix cars. We'll take it. The cost of living is low. You're like, we'll take it. You don't need to be a superstar in these countries. You just don't. But you need to do something. And the women are like, I'll marry you. Because when you marry them, you marry their family. You marry that wife, you're helping out their family. Financially, morally, spiritually, you're helping them out. Now, do I suggest you go down to Thailand? And I don't suggest you do it. I'm not particularly against it. But I tell you what, I'm getting old. I'm almost 55 years old. I've been alone for a long time. Every now and then, I'd love to see, I'd love to have company. But I know I'm not what Black women want. I'm bound out of that 10 years ago. I know that if I get married, I don't even think I could get married to a Black woman. But you got to understand that's Black men's first choice. You're finding out that you start dating outside of your race, a lot of other races are, they're more amiable. if you keep them away from Black culture. If you get a woman who is not Black and then you bring her around Black people and she starts getting that Black attitude that these women have, then you just got yourself, you know, a Black Asian, a Black white woman, a Black, whatever. Because she's going to have the same attitude, dress like them, look like them. She's going to try to keep up with them or she's going to get eaten alive. So there it is. That's my opinion. I know it's long-winded, but whenever you ask me to do something or to talk about something, I try to look at it in all angles, and go, hey, start dating a white woman. I wouldn't suggest it. There are some good-looking white women. There are some very nice white women too. That's another thing. When you start dating a white woman, I'm not talking about a white woman in the hood. I'm talking about she doesn't have the same attitude. She's not looking at you as a problem. It's not what she's doing. She's looking at you as an anomaly. She's favoring you. Sorry, my nose is running. She's favoring you. She doesn't look at you and go, "Oh, this dude is gonna be a," It's not like that. She's going, "Yeah, I'll take that." So I don't know. It's something to think about. Of course, there are a lot of other races out there. I suggest you consult God before you deal with them. Uh, you're gonna have a lot of white women come at you now, brothers. It's gonna happen, and the average guy is, well, the average guy like myself is, I'm an older guy, so I'm taken out of a lot of those equations. Plus, I'm not working. If I decided to start working in corporate America, let's just say that I found a job, right? And I worked in corporate America, downtown somewhere. Immediately I'd be swarmed. Now, I'm talking about if I had a regular job that paid in between 40 to 70 a year, I'd be swarmed up by black women. I'd be swarmed by white women. But mostly Black women would swarm me. It would be a feeding frenzy. The problem with that is you have to tell somebody no, and then they would catch an attitude against you. But if you making a decent dollar, especially when you get up in the 70s and 80s, and you're suit and tie and you start shining around these women, they're gonna do everything. Listen, it's not going to, it'll be so easy to sleep around, be a complete whore with these women. They're not gonna care. They're not. The problem is you're getting older. Keep doing that, you're messing with time. You're gonna get older, you get older, you get older, and finally you can't do any of that anymore. But are those women there? From 21 and up. From 21 and up. Hot in the ass. With very little scruples. Very, very little. There's the resistance would be, you would find very, very, very little resistance. I know because it happened to me. And I didn't know what was going on. But they'll burn right through they'll burn right through you. They'll run right through you. You're thinking you're a lucky guy. This is not even close to what's happening. If you don't pick one or pick none of them, then your target. Because the ones you don't pick will start talking to each other about you, finding something, and they'll get you right on up out of there. So you just got to be careful with that. But are there a lot to pick from? That's an understatement. It's just flooded. And you ain't got to be a rich man. You just got to be a man. You got to have teeth. You got to be breathing. I mean, I can walk around with my hair like this and pull checks. Anyway, so that's my answer. It's your boy Tone 202. I'm out. Peace.